Hey guys, it's Hannah and this is Bookworms Talk, and today we're going to talk about Thief by Tarryn Fisher. This was without a doubt my favorite book of the series, and it was so emotionally charged, and oh, did Tarryn Fisher fuck with our heads. This book does continue chronologically in the story, but it does have those lovely little past tidbits that explain so much. I think that actually might be why this is my favorite book, because there are so many explanations, not excuses mind you, for what Caleb has done. How do I even begin? I mean, these characters in the first two books made decisions that really reflected their age and their inexperience, but now they're making more logical and thought out decisions. Whether or not those are positive or negative decisions, they do think about it more thoroughly. Having read the first two books, you guys completely understand that their story is not an easy one. So don't go into this thinking that there's gonna be flowers and rainbows flying out of puppies' asses, because this is their reality and this is a harsh one. This book really delves into Caleb, and I understand him so well as a character in ways that I feel like I didn't before. And I think I liked being in his head almost as much as Olivia. You think you didn't like Leah before? You don't even understand. So without wanting to give you guys any spoilers, I'm gonna go ahead and leave you right there, and I want you to come back when you have read the book and watch this and discuss it with me down there in the comments. So until then, I'll see you guys later next time on Bookworms Talk. Bye. Throughout The Opportunist and Dirty Red, we're led to believe that Caleb is this really great moral guy, but that's not the case. When you really look at it, you have to remember, he faked the amnesia that hurt anybody that was in his life, but it was for a second chance at love with Olivia, but he's so willing to hurt all of these people for a chance with her. It's a lot like what Olivia did with him about lying about taking Jessica to go and get that abortion so that she would have that chance with him, and so they're very one and the same in that way. I feel like he was almost idealized in these women's eyes because they were so blinded by their love for him. So Olivia got Dobson off by reason of insanity, and she said, "I hate myself. I might as well have been the one to put Casey fucking Anthony back on the street." And I just got the biggest kick out of that because I followed that trial, and I agree. When Caleb takes Jessica Alexander to dinner with Olivia and Noah, that is when I realized you are just as bad as Leah and Olivia. But having read this entire book, I can't really say he's as bad as Leah, because she is... oh. And so after that dinner, Olivia texts Caleb, "Don't fall in love with her." Why would you do that? And then, the real kicker is, then she doesn't speak to him for a year. Again with the time-lapse thing. We get to see from Caleb's perspective when they first met under that tree. Maybe our souls touch underneath that tree. Maybe I decided to love her. Maybe love wasn't our choice. But when I looked at that woman, I saw myself differently, and it wasn't in a good light. Not a thing could keep me from her, and that can make a person do things they never thought themselves capable of. What I felt for her scared the hell out of me. It was a consuming obsession. So then Olivia calls Caleb out of the blue a year later, saying that Dobson broke out last night and he has been sending her letters like while he was there, and she's scared, and she goes to Caleb because he's still that person that she trusts. And of course he goes to her and he's kind of thinking, well, where's Noah? And so then Cammy shows up as well, and they all go and they get to break fast. And Cammy, she had the comic relief that I really needed. Olivia's explained to Cammy that she had called Caleb first. And she's like, he makes me feel safer than you do. And then Cammy says, it's his massive penis, isn't it? He could just smack Dobson with it and let's take my car. So Caleb and Olivia have their little code word, Peter Pan, for what are you thinking? And that comes into play quite a couple times in this. And I love their little isms that they have, the break fast and the Peter Pan and the penny and the airport blue. And it makes you feel, as an audience reading that, how well they know each other. It's quite pointedly put that Caleb stayed with Leah because he felt the need to fix her, because he thought that love could save anybody. And Caleb explains that much to Olivia when they're kind of getting at each other. And she calls him a fucking coward, that if he told her the truth that day in the record store, without all those lies, they wouldn't be where they are. And then she says everything that I've been waiting for her to say. She says, you got married, had a baby. You were supposed to marry me. That was supposed to be my baby. It's all of the missed opportunities, and it's the what if this one decision was made differently, would it affect the outcome? And Olivia explains that Noah doesn't want children, and it's because his sister has cystic fibrosis and he's a carrier. I respect that there is a reason behind that, and so I can't really fault him for it. Caleb tells Olivia to tell Noah the truth, and that their marriage isn't going to work out for reasons that have already happened, and how distant he is and how he's not willing to compromise, but then that she still loves him. We get the flashback that I personally have been waiting for quite a while. When Caleb was in the office with Sydney and Olivia walked in there and she just jump to conclusions. And what was really happening was him and Sydney had a thing many years ago when they were like kids. And she was trying to come on to him, and he was trying to console her by saying, you'll find the right guy. And he was, just trying to be moral Caleb here. And then Olivia walks in, jumps to conclusions, and then she throws the I love you bomb, which was meant so coldly to hurt him. And I always thought, why doesn't he correct her if that's not what was going on? Because she so obviously thinks that he was cheating. And our answer is because he was speaking with Sydney about the ring that he had just got for Olivia, and he thought, she wants out. Since we first got together, she's always finding a reason for us not to be together. What kind of life can I have if she does that? And then Steve tells him, he gives him this really great nugget of advice here. And he said, some people take more work than others. You fell in love with a really complicated woman. You can wait how hard things will be for the two of you, but what you really need to consider is if you can live without her. And so he does go to her. But she's with Cammy, and he just goes to the hotel, and then we know how that next morning goes. So in the present tense, we get one of my favorite scenes where Caleb goes to Olivia at her office, and he takes her to the beach where they have the normal banter-driven kind of conversation, but then it quickly turns serious because Caleb still professes that he loves her. And she obviously does too. We don't see it from her perspective, but it's just so obvious as already knowing Olivia. But she is so hell-bent on it being wrong to Noah. And like I said before, I didn't want Noah to get hurt because he is a good guy, and that's exactly what's gonna happen. Because after 10 years, they still feel the same way. And Caleb just has to convince her of this. And Caleb says, I want your babies, I want your anger, I want your cold blue eyes. I want to go on anniversary dinners with you, I want to wrap Christmas presents with you, I want to fight with you about stupid things and then hold you down on my bed and make it up to you. I want to have more cake batter fights and more camping trips. I want your future, Olivia. And she agrees that yes, she will continue with this because she knows everything that Caleb said is true and that's what she wants as well, but she just can't do so wrong by Noah, and so she says, yes, but as soon as the divorce is finalized. And so we're left with hope there, right? Well, prepare for your hopes to be crushed because right after, Noah calls. And then over the next few days, Caleb asks, have you broken off with him? And she's like, no. He said, why not? Noah said he's willing to adopt, and then that's it. Olivia completely drops contact with Caleb. And in the past, we get this really great paragraph that shows how well Caleb understands Olivia. I'd had too much pride to admit my fault in our demise. By not saying more, by not fighting for her harder, I allowed her to believe it was her fault, and it wasn't. Her only fault had been her brokenness, and not knowing how to express what she was feeling. Olivia was her own worst enemy. She decided something about herself, and then she sabotaged her own happiness with it. Perfect explanation of her, right? And then we get to see their encounter in the music store from Caleb's perspective, which was really interesting, actually. He really did struggle with telling her this lie of the amnesia just to start over. But then when he ran into her again, after the music store, he kind of convinced himself that I can't do this to her, to me. When he ran into her again, it wasn't just happenstance, it was kismet, and I, again, love that he's a believer in fate. We're told, and this kind of makes me lose a bit of respect for Caleb, but it's honest. He's lied to Olivia, we know that. He's broke her heart, we know that. But that he married Leah just to spite her, that is what got me. So Caleb's at this club with a couple of his co-workers, and he feels really ridiculous that he's acting like 10 years younger than he really is. But then he sees Olivia in there, and we have to remember that Olivia, when she has problems and her life is just turning to turmoil, what does she do? Get really drunk and go and dance. So he gets her to leave, and then they walk all the way to her office where her car is left. And on the way, they grab a bottle of tequila, some flip-flops, and talk. And Olivia says that she does love Noah, but then she also backs it up by saying, when I won the case, I went into panic mode. It wasn't him that I wanted to talk to. I just wanted you. And when Dobson escaped from the institution, I wanted you. And when I had a miscarriage, and she just leaves it at that. And then this is where Caleb explains the whole thing with Sydney and how he never cheated on her. And he says that he was going to propose to her that night, and she asked to see the ring. And then she's mad at him. Of course she's mad at him. I'm so glad she is. She's like, why didn't you tell me? And they have the conversations that they just really needed to have. And then back at her office, they continue the conversation. They have sex in her office. And then the next day, Caleb explains to her, I know you're going to feel guilty, but you have to break it off with Noah. And we think that she will. Right. So in the past, we get to see how confused Caleb was the second time that Olivia left and when she went to Texas, and he went to her apartment and all of her things are gone. And what's left is going in the trash, and he literally starts digging through bags and he finds their penny. And he's just so confused because he thinks, what did he do wrong in the orange grove? Like, he was just so sure that how he felt for her and how she felt for him, and then she's just gone. But the thing is, and this is kind of where my respect is gained back for him, he does chase her to Texas. And what happens is he gets there and kind of goes into sneak mode here, and he hides because he sees the car pulling in the driveway, and he listens, and she's with another guy. He doesn't go all that way, and then at the first sign of, oh, maybe it won't work kind of thing, like she's moved on, he doesn't stop. So Cammy opens the door, Olivia's already up the stairs, and Cammy's like, no, 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 no. But he ignores Cammy and he tries to go up the stairs to Olivia, but Cammy says something that stops him in his tracks. She infers that she had an abortion, and that's what gets him to leave, along with the fact that Cammy threatened to call the cops if he didn't. So we know that Leah attempted suicide before just to rein him in and trap him, but it doesn't stop there. We get more details actually in the hospital, and this is what makes me hate her even more. Leah says, if you don't stay with me, I'm not keeping this baby. I have no intention of being a single mother. She threatens him with that. The guilt, the stupidity of what she actually did, it's like, why would you want to be second place, and why would you want to trap someone like that? Oh yeah, and the fact that she lied about even being pregnant at that point. Lovely girl, isn't she? So in the present tense, Caleb takes Olivia to dinner, and it's like this place with lots and lots of red. And this part, I laughed, I nearly died. I'm not above that joke. And Olivia says, this looks like the red room of pain. And he's like, you read 50? Everyone was reading it, she said defensively. And she asks, you? I wanted to see what all the hype was about. Just one line though, because I see the world in different shades of Olivia. I'm comparing them to you, not the other way around. So Leah goes to Olivia, telling her that Estella actually is Caleb's daughter. And he is just heartbroken that he has missed 2 years of his daughter's life, and so he goes to see her, and then Leah calls the cops and gets a restraining order saying that he went in there raging drunk. Now that Noah's back in town, Caleb and Noah have this little talk. And Noah tells Caleb that he was once in love with the girl the same way that he's in love with Olivia. And he says, my sister had cystic fibrosis. I used to go with her to support groups. That's where I met Melissa. She had it too. I fell in love with her and then had to watch her die before she had the chance to turn 24. My sister died 2 years after her. I've seen 2 women that I love die. I don't want to bring a child into the world with a chance of passing them that gene. It's not fair. So in the past, Caleb goes to Luca because he knows Olivia's getting married the next day, and he's like, I need you to talk me out of going there. And she says 3 things. It's okay that you love her. Don't stop. Second, wait for her. You have to live your life. And finally, wait for her. And I thought that was a little bit shocking because she was never exactly Olivia's #1 fan, but she does want what's right for her son. And then Caleb wants to send these messages that he wrote to Olivia that say, I love you. He deletes it. If you leave him, I'll leave her. He deletes it. Can we talk? He deletes it. Peter Pan. And he deletes it. So Caleb and Olivia are talking, and Olivia told him that she's choosing Noah. Olivia, I once told you that I would love again, and that you would hurt forever. Do you remember that? And he says, it was a lie. I knew it was a lie, even as I said it. I never loved anyone after you. I never will. And he walked away. I swear, my heart was thrown every which way. You're not her father. You are her father. You're not her father. The tests are negative. The tests are positive. Whoops, we messed up. Like, seriously, this is cruel. Do you remember Olivia's birthday and the airport blue box that she was upset about? We finally get to know what that was. It was from Caleb, as we suspected, and it was divorce papers. But it wasn't just divorce papers, no. It was the Pink Floyd CD from the record store, the case cracked diagonally across, the kissing penny, green from age and flattened, and 1 deflated basketball. I definitely see why she reacted the way she reacted. After that, how could she just stay with Noah? I don't get it. I don't get it. I do. No, I don't. I've decided I don't get it. And so after that, Olivia goes to her house and she drops the penny off the balcony. And she cries herself to sleep that night. But then the next morning when she's out there with coffee, she finds the penny on the balcony. No, she over the edge dropped it. How does it get there, right? And she tells herself, oh, the wind blew it. And I'm just like, I'm not buying that. I have one word, fate. So when Luca took Estella to go see Caleb in London, and in the airport, she was just running to him, and he got her the llama, because the peacock and the llama from The Opportunist, and he was just like so close to tears, and he just feels awful that he's missed so much of his daughter's life, and then after, when he's having to say goodbye to her after their 3-week period together, he realizes, I can't do this, and so he's going to work out his contract until he has to in London, and then he's going to move back there. And then at Christmas, when Estella's supposed to come and see him, and Luca's taking her with her to the airport and flying there, he gets a call when they haven't showed up, and there was an accident. We find out that Luca and Steve both died, and they were hit by a semi, and Estella's in surgery and is in critical condition, and I was bawling. And no one can get a hold of Leah because she's off in Thailand with, we presume, is his brother. So Caleb's asleep at her bedside, and then one of the nurses say, oh, your wife was here. And he finds out that it was actually Olivia, and she's just there for him, and she calls and she makes all the plans for his parents' funeral, and she just takes care of him in whatever way that she can, and they never ask about Noah because they just are living in that moment. And so then after the funeral in the parking lot, Leah confronts Caleb. She feels like this whole thing is inadvertently his fault, because if it weren't for him being in London, they wouldn't have been driving in that car that night, and Estella wouldn't have been hurt. And so Leah threatens to take him to court and get full custody of Estella, and Olivia slaps her. I mean, this woman has needed someone to slap her so many times throughout the series. And Olivia threatens Leah, saying, there is nothing more you can do to me, but I swear to God, if you fuck with Caleb, I'm going to put you in prison for the many illegal activities. Then you won't see your daughter, because you have to remember that she knows every dirty detail. She was her lawyer. And the thing is that Olivia is holding over Leah is that Leah had sex with the housekeeper's son, who was a minor, so statutory rape. And then in that same conversation over the phone, she says, Noah and I are divorced. And they go and they meet at their coffee shop. And then as they're about to leave, and he says, Olivia, yeah? If I make this shot, will you go out with me? I hold up my cup like it's a basketball and look from her to the trash can. Yeah, she says, smiling. Yeah, I will. I make the shot. And so in the epilogue, Olivia and him never marry, but what was the saying? They said their hearts are married. It seems almost wrong to get married after what we did to love. So Olivia had made their penny into a necklace and she never takes it off. After 2 more miscarriages, Olivia is diagnosed with ovarian cancer and she has to get a hysterectomy. And she's wanted kids, right? And so it's just heartbreaking for her, and Caleb says that she just cried for an entire year about it. But the cancer never came back. And there's this one part, and I think it's my favorite chunk of the book, because it's exactly what I've been saying throughout the whole series. This is before I even knew about the cancer. I see the fact that if we had just done things right, if I'd fought harder, if she'd fought less, we would have been together sooner. Maybe we could have had our baby before it was too late, before her body made it impossible, but we didn't, and we're both a little broken because of it. We are all so broken. Pick up a person, shake them around, and you'll hear the rattling of their broken pieces. Pieces our fathers broke, or our mothers broke, or our friends, strangers, or our loves. Olivia has stopped rattling quite as much as she used to. Love is a God-given tool, she tells me. It screws things back into place that were loose, and it cleans out all the broken pieces that you don't need anymore. I believe her. Our love has been fixing each other. I hope to only hear a tiny jingle when I shake her in a few years. And so Leah has remarried, has a son, and gives up custody of Estella when she's 9. And Estella and Olivia have like this really great relationship. And he says, we are both raising this little beautiful soul. And so they do still get to be parents in that way. And so it's not this perfect happy ending, but it is a real ending for them. I will see you guys later next time on Bookworms Talk. And it may be a little while because I'm in the process of moving all my things into my new apartment and I have all of that stuff going on, but I promise I'll slip up a video in the meantime. But as far as seeing you guys for another book talk, it may be a little while. So bye for now. I have like thesaurus here with me today. It's not just a book.
Yeah, I didn't say it's just a book, I said it's just a story.
Same difference.
No.